Well. A day after the Mets struck and made their move and they signed their guy, Harrison Bader, I felt that it was very important for us to go live. And most importantly, I've said this a couple of times, but I want to continue to anyone who has not seen this, wish everyone a happy new year. Hopefully, you all are doing well. But yes, I just want to say that once more. But yes, Harrison Bader is a New York Met, and the fallout from the Harrison Bader signing is pretty interesting because you got half the fan base, it seems, very happy saying that, oh my God, you don't know, the Mets, they're playing chess instead of checkers. This is a phenomenal move. He's a defensive specialist. The guy can run. This is a great move. And then you got the other half of the fan base saying, oh my God, this is a fifth outfielder. You're paying him $10 million. It's a horrible move, you know? So you got two factions of the fan base really split, really split on this one. And it's really interesting. I fall more along the lines of, I'm not happy about this move. I'm really not. I probably would be more happy if the Mets made some substantial moves and this was an additional move. I see this guy as more or less as a guy the Yankees didn't want. Everybody's saying, hey, he played great for the Yankees in the 2022 playoffs. But folks, the Yankees traded Jordan Montgomery for this guy. So they traded a very talented guy. So it's in their best interest for this to work for the Yankees. And they weren't interested in Harrison Bader. So, the Mets, of course, when it doesn't really seem like 2024 is the season where we're going for it. So why not? Let's sign Harrison Bader. He's Pete Alonso's friend. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Well, this is where I kind of ponder and I kind of think, how is this going to affect the fan base? What is the expectation from the fan base? Do the fans actually want to win? Do we expect the Mets to contend for 2024? Because my thing is, we've had a lot of years of misery as Met fans. Tremendous, horrific years of failure after failure after failure. Winning has not come easy. It has not. And, even if you come up with a plan and you say, you know what, we're going to play the kids and in a couple years, we'll have money on the, to spend. You never know what happens. In a couple years, maybe the play you desire or the play you desire say, why would I sign with your team? Your team has been crap the last couple of years. You haven't made any strides. So there's no guarantee in the future that you're going to sign that desired free agent, right? So I'm of the feeling that you never punt on the season and you always make every move possible to be competitive as possible now and in the future. And you got a guy in Stearns as your general manager, as your president, who's supposed to be an upper echelon general manager / president. He is supposed to be the best of the best. He is a guy that Steve Cohen has touted since he became an owner. So he's a guy that Steve Cohen feels has a lot of talent. Now, if this guy has all the talent in the world, it should be very easy for David Stearns to be competitive, build a team now and for the future. That shouldn't be a question. It really shouldn't be a question. Just want to say, hey, what's up, Richard, Yuki? Hopefully everybody's doing well. Happy New Year to you guys as well. Richard, I hope a trade is coming. I really do. I actually feel a move is coming. I really do. I feel that, we know that we need a starting pitcher. We know that we kind of need a starting pitcher. So if we could, and actually, you know what, Richard, since you brought that up, I had this later in the notes, but here's 3 feasible moves that really would elevate the team to, I think, a different stratosphere. Now, we hear the name Dylan Cease kind of bandied about, and I saw a couple mock trades, and, I think it's an interesting guy. It's a guy who's, young. He's 28 years old. He's had a couple of talented seasons. He's got very talented stuff. He's a very talented pitcher, right? And he's on a team that is going nowhere. So it's a perfect trade partner. The White Sox really have a couple good players, but to hold a guy like Cease really doesn't make sense. So trading him to the Mets could be something that could be in the works. But I'm like, you know what? A couple moves that the Mets could make us a lot better if we made a trade for Cease, if we somehow sign a Justin Turner, if we sign maybe a Jordan Hicks for the bullpen. I believe he's still available. Those would be like three very intriguing moves that are feasible, that are possible. Justin Turner is an older veteran that, I could see the Mets going after. He's a guy that wouldn't take up a lot of, the youngsters wouldn't have to be worried because they know they got an old veteran there and he's not going to be there for the future. But he can set a good example for the youngsters and hold a position for, when Beatty's developing and Beatty's not doing as good as we want him to do, at least you got a guy to lean on. You got an older veteran already on the team, and it takes a lot of pressure off the youngsters. So those are moves that I'm like, you know what? A couple moves could tremendously change the trajectory of this season. And I really hope that we are going in that type of direction, because right now it just doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like we want to be competitive, at least for 2024. But Hey, what's up, Jay? So Jay, sign Bauer. He wants to be a Met. Bauer, that's a pretty interesting name. It really is. I just feel that like with the Jared Porter nonsense a couple years ago, and like the sexual harassment stuff, I just don't feel that Steve Cohen is going to go in that direction because of all this stuff that's gone on in his organization. I just don't really feel, what I didn't really look into like what's going on with that situation lately, but just all the stuff around it, I just don't see it. I think it would be an interesting signing. I think Trevor Bauer still has a lot to offer Major League Baseball, but in terms of the hoopla, in terms of everything that goes with a signing like that, it would help the Mets on the field, but off the field, the image-wise, I don't think that Steve Cohen wants to have that in his organization. I really don't. I would be really surprised if he went in that direction. Like I said, I feel it would really help the on-field team, but think of it this way. A lot of teams have that same reservation. If teams didn't have that reservation, Bauer would have already been signed by a whole slew of teams, considering the fact that there's not many good starting pitchers out there. So there's a lot of teams out there that are concerned about the same things that Steve Cohen and the Mets are concerned that with regards to Trevor Bauer. So it's interesting, but I just don't think the Mets are going to go there, unfortunately. Yeah, Richard, I think it's no doubt about it. He's going to be blackballed. And Yuki, I don't, I don't know how valuable Bauer's going to be. You never know. I mean, the guy can come in lights out, and then he's a lights out pitcher. Teams may at that point they might not give a crap about the baggage that comes with him if he's that dominant. But I just don't see the Mets taking a chance and going there. I mean, I always think about like the Ray Rice situation, like 13, 14 years ago. And I mean, Ray Rice hasn't signed, with another team since. So some guys just never get a second chance. And it's yet to be seen if Trevor Bauer is a guy who does or is presented with that second chance. And I wonder what team would do that. I think it would have to be really a desperate team, to be honest with you. And the Mets, you could say they're desperate, but I don't think they're that desperate. Now, 2024 is going to be a very interesting season. 2024, I know there's no doubt about it. It seems to be like a developmental year. We're going to be playing the kids. We're not putting the pedal to the metal. Obviously, we are not spending a crap load of money like we've been spending in the past. But my question is, and what I'm kind of thinking about is, I think about the fans. I'm a fan myself. I've gone to Citi Field. I've spent the prices. I desire when I go to a Citi Field, I want to see a good product on the field. Now, here's the thing. Although we're going to be playing the young players and we're going to be developing, how good are we going to be? We're going to have a $300 million payroll. The fans are still going to have to pay the crazy high prices. If this doesn't really go in a positive direction, really, how patient are fans going to be with David Stearns and Steve Cohen? How much goodwill has Steve Cohen built in the last 3 years? Yes, Steve Cohen made a lot of big signings, Verlander, Scherzer. He signed Lindor, but where has it really gotten us? It got us to a pathetic season last year. I mean, it was pathetic. If you look at it in the beginning of last year, we were like World Series favorites, or at least favored to get to the World Series. And then by the middle of the season, we were trading away half of our starting rotation. So it was a disaster. It was it was just a bomb. We blew it up. We blew it up last year. And because of the fact that Steve Cohen spent so much damn money, the fans were like, you know what? He tried. He tried. Now we get it. We get it. But how long do we give Steve Cohen? And Stearns is new, so he buys a little more time. But 2 or 3 months of, let's just say, the Mets start and we don't get a guy that's protecting Pete, how long does this team have? How long does Stearns have? And honestly, I don't think long. I'm going to be a guy, I want to win from day one. We deserve to win from day one. We have a core here of Pete Alonso. We have Jeff McNeil. We have Nimmo. We have Diaz. We have Senga. We got guys in their prime right now. They are 30 years old and above. These guys aren't getting any younger, and I don't believe we waste any of these years. And if we are going to waste these years, if David Stearns has a plan where, hey, it's going to be a 3 to 5 year window, then at the end of the day, what are we doing here? Are we going to trade these guys? Are we going to trade these guys? If David Stearns literally went up to Steve Cohen and said, hey, you know what? This is going to be a realistic 3 to 5 year build. We already got an aging core. So we may be anticipating something completely out of what maybe I wasn't expecting. Maybe Nimmo could be on the block. Maybe Alonso could be traded. I know he's going to be a free agent. But if we don't add pieces, significant pieces, like I was saying in the beginning of the video, then 2024 may be a season that we just flip this whole thing around. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying that could be a direction. That could be a direction. And I'm hoping it's not going to be that direction because, like I said, my goal is to win. My goal is to constantly really put pressure on David Stearns and Steve Cohen because we want to win. It's all about winning. Yeah, good point. This fan base, I don't think we're gonna accept these small market moves. Look at this. 35, 40 years, however long the Wilpons owned the team, we were a big market team, and we were being operated like a small market team. It was all these small market moves. It was so damn frustrating. But even in that time, there were times where we momentarily operated like a big market team. Like when we signed Yoenis Cespedes, that move 6-7 years ago. I mean, honestly, that was bigger than any move this offseason. If we got a guy like Yoenis Cespedes, I'd be jumping for joy. I mean, that's almost like a Jorge Soler. So we have the ability to get a guy like that. Are we going to? It doesn't really look like it. I love Soler. He's a guy that I think we would regret not getting. He's a guy that would protect Pete in the lineup. He's a guy that would have that be that power bat that we've been looking for the last couple of years. So I think that's a missed opportunity. Plus, he's still out there. So I don't think he's got the contract that, he wants to get. So as long as he's still out there, he's still an option. Oh boy, Alonso endorsed Bader. I mean, they're best friends, so of course they're going to really support each other, but I don't really think that means much. I mean, friends are obviously gonna stick together, but Bader, like I said, I see him as a fifth outfielder. I may be looking past what he brings to the table, but I'm looking to what he brings to a winning culture, how he helps the team produce wins. And I don't see him bringing the team any more wins. His wins above replacement, his WAR, I think is 8 for his entire career. So he doesn't really do much for me at all. maybe he inspires the clubhouse. Maybe he makes other guys better. Maybe that's where his value is. But, then again, that's really like thinking along different lines. And I don't know. I'm just not happy about that move. And next year, if we don't do anything significant, if we don't make any significant moves, if we don't build anything this year, why would any free agent really sign with us? Like that's what I look at. Like I want to build something this year. If let's say we get a Dylan Cease, if we swing some type of trade, we get a Dylan Cease, we sign Soler to a 2-year deal. At least we kind of be building something. Dylan Cease is going to be here for 2 years. Soler would be here for 2 years. That's something that would excite me. That's something that would also excite future free agents. Like I really think that we have to look at that. Look at that faction, like Yamamoto. Like, why was Yamamoto ever going to sign with the Mets when he had options like the Dodgers, who just had Shohei Ohtani, or the Yankees, who just signed Juan Soto, and the Mets, who literally just signed a bunch of guys that nobody knows? It just really doesn't make much sense. So I hope that David Stearns, in terms of vision, has a vision for now and a vision for the future. And I hope that us Met fans really don't give him a pass. I really don't. I'm not going to give him a pass. I'm really not. Today's, a little late for me. Like, I should be sleeping. I got to be up in the morning. But I just keep thinking, like, I think our expectation as Met fans are really low. They're really low. Yankees go into every season like it's World Series or bust. That has to be our expectation as well. We share the same city. We're in New York City. It has to be World Series or bust. Plus, now we have the resources. We have Steve Cohen. We have a good general manager. I said that, but we have a good president in David Stearns. So, there should be no punting on any season. You never know what happens in the future. If we sign, whoops. If we sign a good guy in the future in 2025, 2026, who's to say the guy gets injured? How many times did we have Jacob deGrom, or we had that starting rotation and we thought we were all set, and then deGrom gets injured, Syndergaard gets injured? You never know. You can't give up. You can't punt on any years. So my videos, I'm telling you, I don't care. I want the kids to develop. I know Stearns has a plan, but I will not accept punting. I will not accept giving up on 2024. We develop in 2024. We build now and in the future. That's what David Stearns has to do. He was brought here because he's a very talented president, so he could do both. He should be making trades for now and in the future, and that's what I want to see. That is honestly what I want to see. Yeah, Yuki, it's 12:50 at night. I honestly, 12:50 in the morning. You got good jokes. I love it. I love it. Um, Jay, you're right. I would trade Mauricio, Beatty, Vientos for a good power bat. Honestly, I love Mauricio. I think the guy's got 5 tools. The guy's a stud. It's just he's out right now. So when the guy's out, a lot of times people are willing to trade him because he can't help you right now. But Mauricio is a guy I really like. Beatty last year, he was a little underwhelming, so I could see why you would want to trade him. Vientos is a bit more limited. He's supposedly going to be projected as a DH power bat, but Mauricio is the only guy I just want to hold on to. I really think the guy's a stud. I think that we're gonna be at least some folks are gonna be surprised at how good he is. I thought he was gonna be the best player, even possibly better than Alvarez. I don't know what Stroman's deal is. I don't know about you. I've never ever commented to Stroman on Twitter, but for some reason, he's got me blocked. I hear he blocks a lot of people, so I don't know if he just checks off or you can mass block a bunch of people. But I never write anything on Twitter, and the one time I went to go on Stroman's profile to see what he had posted, I was blocked, and I'm like, what the heck? I've never even interacted with the guy. So I just find that, Stroman is somebody that, although he's a talented guy, like what he wouldn't bring positive vibes here. And I don't think it would help out the team for 2024 and in the future. I mean, it would be funny. It would be interesting. There'd be a lot of drama. But in terms of it being productive, it wouldn't be productive. And Jay, good point. We got Edwin Diaz coming back, and that can't be underrated. The best bullpen guy, best closer, best relief pitcher, however you want to look at it. Edwin Diaz is coming back. He brings a lot to the table. He makes the eighth inning guy stronger. He makes the starter rotation stronger. Like there's so much that he does for us, and even a mentality wise, when you're, let's say you're ahead by one run, going into the eighth and ninth inning, there's not as much pressure on the hitters because if you got a 1-2 run lead, Diaz can lock it down. So he does a lot, takes pressure off the offense, take pressures off the bullpen. I can't wait to see Edwin Diaz this year. I really, really can't. I'd love the Mets to sign some type of like dominant eighth inning guy. I know I mentioned Josh Hader, but he's looking for a crap load of money, so that's not a realistic option. But if the Mets could sign like somebody where he would be a dominant, maybe a Jordan Hicks, or a Liam Hendricks, somebody who could slot into the eighth inning where I have a lot of confidence in, even if they go after David Robertson again. But I'd sign David Robertson and I'd sign a Jordan Hicks. I would want to have a dominant bullpen, at least some aspect of the team that's super, super strong. But it doesn't look like we're going that way. Yeah, Jay. You're right. I can't wait to see Acuna, Jet, Gilbert, and Clifford on the field. That's going to be awesome. I don't know why. I see some people saying how the most of these guys, they're coming out up in 2025, 2025. But if 2024 is a year where you're going to be in transition, I would bring all these guys up. I really would. Jet Williams was dominating in the minor leagues. Gilbert was dominating, lighting it up. I would definitely bring those guys up. Clifford might be a little further away. Acuna also, too, I'd bring him up. But Acuna, Jet, and Gilbert, I'd love to see those guys at a major league level. I mean, if the team is doing great, okay, maybe, those guys have more time. But if we're not playing well, you got to bring these guys up. There's no way I'd wait till 2025 because 2025 is when we're supposed to be serious. So that's not when you're going to be starting to bring the kids up. Yeah, Richard. So you're right. Robertson stunk up the joint after he was traded. That's a good point. After he was traded, when he was in New York, he still was phenomenal. I really, this is my opinion. Robertson, I believe, really enjoyed his time in New York. We know he played with the Yankees all those years. I believe he really enjoyed being in New York. And when he was traded to the Miami Marlins, I think he put on a professional face. But I just think that we got to observe how a guy performs in a situation where he's really not happy. David Robertson chose to come here and play with the Mets because he wanted to be here. He was forced to go to the Miami Marlins because he was traded to be there. So, I think that's what the situation was. You see a guy who wasn't happy and he just stunk it up. Also, he's a bit older and, that's older guys. That's what happens, especially bullpen guys. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss. But I'd give Robertson another chance. I think he was making $10 million this year, same amount of money we gave Bader. Noah, you're right. You think there's still a chance they sign Imanaga? For some reason, I'm not feeling the Imanaga thing. I think they're still interested, but I think I'm guessing here, but I think Imanaga's price tag might be a little more than what they want to pay, because it just seems right now that the Mets aren't in the conversations like in a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, you heard that the Mets were one of 3 teams involved. Now it depends on who you hear on Twitter. Some people are saying that the Mets aren't even involved anymore. So you would think that if that was the team that was going to sign Imanaga, the Mets would be in every single Twitter conversation, or every reporter would be saying the Mets are involved. But half of the reporters are saying the Mets aren't interested. So, just by that, I would say I don't think the Mets are going to sign him. And then you hear rumors that the Mets are interested in Dylan Cease. So maybe they heard Imanaka wasn't interested, or Imanaka wants to go to another place, or somebody's making a crazy offer to him. For some reason or not, the Mets don't feel like they can get Imanaga, or they don't want Imanaga. But I don't see Imanaga coming to New York based upon that. No way should the Mets sign Chapman. Well, all in all, what I really believe is there's no chance the Mets should really give up on 2024, no matter what. At the end of the day, you really never know what's going to happen. I mean, the Dodgers, the Braves, last year they were built to win a World Series. And what happened? We know they didn't win the World Series. The Rangers won the World Series. So you don't know what happens with injuries. You don't know, teams get hot. You don't know, we got young players. These guys develop. Then things can happen. Things really can happen. And then you have an expanded playoffs. So more teams get in, and once a team gets into the playoffs, anything can happen. So that's why I would just really not want to give up on this season. And I don't think Stearns really is. I think maybe he may be given the perception that we're not making any moves, but I really can't see us going into the season not making any significant moves. I really can't. I really can't. We have Steve Cohen as our owner. Our luxury tax right now, we're at 293 million. We're at 293 million right now, and we still have moves to make. The Steve Cohen tax threshold is 297 million. It seems like we're going to go out over it, no doubt about it. And Steve Cohen has already said in the past that if we go over it, we're not going to go over it by a little. So that's why, like, right now we're in a very odd zone, 293, unless we sign no one. But that's an impossibility. That's an impossibility because we still need more pieces. I don't know. It's just a very tricky situation. The salary cap. I hear that he wants to reset the salary cap, but right now we're at 293 million. So unless we're going to start shedding payroll right now and adding no one, it seemed like just naturally, virtually, we're going to have to go over the 297 million. Well, I mean, the Dodgers should win the World Series. They got the most talent by far. I mean, they got all world players. That roster is completely stacked. Their farm system is stacked. If they need to make trades at the deadline, they have the ammo to do it. The Dodgers, they really, and the Dodgers are putting pressure on other teams. Like you saw the Braves make that trade a couple of days ago, and I was shocked. I was shocked that they made that trade for Chris Sale. That is not a Braves-like trade. It really isn't. I mean, Chris Sale is going to be 35 years old, off an injured guy, and they gave up Vaughn Grissom, a guy who has 6 years of control, a guy who's only getting better. That really shows me that the Dodgers are putting pressure on all these teams to get better, right? So I guess in a way that the Mets aren't succumbing to that pressure, but I really thought that Braves move was ultra interesting. Very unlike the Braves to make that move. I think it's going to be a very bad move for them. I don't see Chris Sale being productive over the long term. And for them to give up a prospect that they touted, unless they didn't really have that confidence that they appeared to project in Vaughn Grissom, but it just wasn't a Braves-like trade. That was actually, in my opinion, more of a Mets-like move. The Mets usually acquire an older like player, but I don't know. The Braves did make that move, so let's see how it works out. With their luck, Chris Sale will be the Chris Sale of 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, right now it looks like, hey, you know what? Nola and Gray had good contracts. Especially Sonny Gray, 3 years, 75 million. But I think the Mets, or at least what all the insiders are saying, the Mets, they just don't want to give up that compensation. They don't want to give up the draft pick. So if you sign a guy like Sonny Gray, you would have had to give up compensation for him. And the Mets, they don't want to give up. They don't want to give up a draft pick. So I got to respect them in that regard. They're trying to develop their farm system. But, I think if the Mets were a little further along, if they had more of a rotation, if their roster was more well-rounded, maybe they'd be willing to give up a draft compensation. But right now, we're not ready to win. So, I mean, I kind of don't blame them. But at the end of the day, I see what you're saying. We definitely need pitching. So a guy like Sonny Gray was very ultra talented. Why not give him $25 million a year, which seems ultra reasonable at this point? And then also too, I hear a lot of people saying, you got to give David Stearns time. You have to be patient. He's not going to make moves overnight. But I was just thinking about this. Do we all remember when Cohen bought the team 2020 around COVID time? And Jared Porter, I believe he was the general manager at that time. Didn't we got Lindor right away? I think we got Lindor like 2 months into Cohen owning the team. So looking back at that, that was a pretty impressive move by Jared Porter right off the bat. He wheeled a deal, and we automatically, nobody can dispute, we automatically made our team better. We made our team better for 2020, 2021, whenever it was, and for the future. So those are the type of moves that I would advocate for. I would, but you got to find them. I don't know who that move would be for, but moves are out there. Moves are out there to be had. David Stearns is a guy who, he's a good evaluator of talent. And you always got to make sure that you win the trade. So if we're being cautious right now, if we're not pulling the trigger because we're trying to evaluate the trade and more or less rip the other team off, okay, I can understand that. But by the time the offseason is over, I expect to have a roster that's going to compete for a playoff spot and eventually compete for a World Series in 2024. I'm not giving up on 2024. I don't know anybody in here. I appreciate everybody that contributes to the channel, everybody that's a part of the family. I love the comments, on all the videos. Everybody's extremely intelligent. You educate me all the time. I can't say that enough, but I'm not going to give up on this year. I don't care what the plan is. You never give up on a season. You never give up on a Major League Baseball season. You never know what happens. A couple of years ago, the Phillies were done. They were done. They in the middle of 2021, I believe, and they made a managerial switch. They got rid of Girardi, and then a switch turned on, and they almost made the World Series. So you just really never know. If you don't give up and you make winning moves, you always put yourself in a position to be in contention. And that's what I want us to do. I want us to always make winning moves. And the reason why I didn't like Harrison Bader is because, I don't feel it's a winning move. I don't, at least for this team as currently constituted. If our team had a number 5 hitter, if if we had a stronger outfield, if we had a better defensive outfield, like, you were talking about improving the defense of our outfield. First of all, we don't even have a starting rotation. We don't even have a good starting rotation, right? So how can you worry about defense if you don't have pitchers? You have, Severino you sign. Hopefully he turns it around. You don't have an ace. You don't have a number three. You have guys in your bullpen that you signed, because they were on the scrap heap. But besides Diaz, there's not too many guys back there that I have confidence in. We just need so much. So to add a guy like Bader, you add him to a team that is more or less a finished product. Because of the fact that we're not a finished product right now, I can't properly evaluate Bader. Maybe everybody else, they're able to plug in the other holes of the roster. I can't do that. I need to see those holes filled. I need to see how we fill those holes. And then I can see how Bader fits in this team. Because right now, I just see him as a fifth outfielder who can play, good defense once in a while, or a defensive replacement guy. Thank you so much, Sir Foul Player. Happy New Year to you as well. Hopefully, you're having a great New Year. Um, Hopefully, us, the Mets can make some moves to excite the fan base. And I don't know how many people in here are Knicks fans, but I'm a Knicks fan as well. The Knicks just made a very good trade. They got OG Anunoby, and it just completely transformed their team. I mean, their team right now is on a 3-game win streak. The fan base is energized. That's what I hope that we could do with our fan base. I hope that we can make a couple big moves, inject some energy. You need the right roster. You need the right group of guys. Last year it was just evident we didn't have a good clubhouse. We didn't have the right group of guys out there. We just don't have what it takes to win. And more or less, our lineup has not changed since the end of last year. Our pitching rotation has changed, but I don't think it's changed for the better. Oh, people say that I complain a lot, but I expect better. I want to win. I want to win at all costs. And when people tell me to be patient, I've been patient for my whole life. I've never seen a World Series. My team has been to the playoff only 2 or 3 times, or maybe 4 or 5, but just a handful of times. So I just want to see us build a team now. It's all these things. You 100% need a clubhouse. You need a good clubhouse. You need a good core. The Mets right now. You know what? If David Stearns is going to take time to personally evaluate the players, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to make moves once I see Alonso play, once I see McNeil play, once I see the team gel, once I see our farm system, once I see the AAA team, AA team. I need to personally evaluate our players. Okay, maybe that's his philosophy. Maybe he needs to personally see everything. But once he personally evaluates how our team is playing and developing, then we have to aggressively make moves. All right. So fill out the rest of the roster this year. We still need an ace. We need a competent pitcher. We need pitchers who can eat up innings. We need an extra bullpen help. We need a guy who can protect Pete in the lineup. Once he fills in those gaps, then throughout the year, I hope he makes trades accordingly, because right now we are not set up to win. Jay, honestly, I'm the same age as you, and I've never seen a World Series in my lifetime too. So I'm long time suffering. I'd love to see the Mets do something in the near future. I always hear in my life, next year, wait till next year. oh, don't worry, we're gonna sign this guy, we're gonna sign that guy. I remember back in the day when we were gonna sign A-Rod. I remember all these guys we were gonna sign, and you know what? There's never a guarantee. There's never a guarantee. Years ago, 2-3 years ago, there was a big majority of Met fans who felt we were going to sign Shohei Ohtani. There was. Now, yeah, everybody knew Shohei was never going to sign with us. But I remember there was a lot of excitement that we were going to sign Shohei Ohtani. But you know what? There's never a guarantee. Yes, there's a lot of free agents next year with a lot of talent. There's a lot of pitchers out there, a lot of pitchers that we could sign. But I just rather us, make moves with more of a guarantee. Stearns has to take this team by the horns, and he has to come up with a plan, and he has to be better than everybody else. He has to be the best president. I don't know. I don't know. I got to give the guy a little bit of time. I know with Milwaukee, it took him about a year and a half to evaluate the situation. I don't think it's going to take that long in New York because we have more resources. And I believe that Stearns took over a team that's more talented than the team he took over in 2016 when he became the president or GM of the Brewers. So he's in a better situation with the Mets. Yes, the payroll's out of control, but there's more talent on this team. There's more resources. It shouldn't take a long time. It shouldn't take a long time. Yeah, Jay. I mean that's a bit tough. It's really tough. I mean, you want to be loyal to your players. You want to always take care of your players. Like, obviously DeGrom, it would have been phenomenal if he would have retired as a Met. But if you're going to pay a guy so much money, $35-40 million, and he has a good chance of being injured and he's not going to be on the field, that was a tough decision that they had to make. It looks like that they made the right decision. Like, we don't know how DeGrom, if he's ever going to come back. But if you're referring more to a guy like Alonso, like, hey, take care of Alonso, I could definitely see the Mets, going down that road. Alonso's a corner piece of the team. There's not many Alonsos out there. There's not many Alonsos in all of Major League Baseball. A guy who can hit 40-plus home runs, drive in 120 RBIs. He bats around 250, 260. That's not bad in this day and age. But he's a run producer, a massive power slugger, a guy that there's not another Alonso really out there, especially a guy who's been as consistent over the last 5 years. So I got to give Pete Alonso all the credit in the world. But if you're going to sign a guy like Pete Alonso, first of all, I'd be talking to him right now. I'd be talking to him now. The fact that Stearns is not talking to him right now, at least starting a dialogue. If you remember with the Yankees and Brian Cashman with the Judge situation, they were talking to Judge years before. They made an offer a year before he was a free agent. He ended up rejecting that offer, but there were talks. The Yankees were always interested in signing Judge, but the Mets have made no contact with Scott Boras at all. In fact, and I've mentioned this many times, Pete Alonso has made comments through Boras that he's willing to negotiate with the Mets. So I know Pete would stay with Queens, but I think the only way the Mets would really do a deal right now is if Pete's willing to take a major discount. Because you hear some ridiculous contracts like Pete wants $250 million. That's way too much money. It's way too much money to give a guy who's 30 years old, even though he is a slugger. How long is he going to be a slugger? Is he going to be a slugger for the next 3 to 4 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years? I'd be comfortable with a contract of 6 years for him. I'd sign him to a 6-year contract right now. But anything over 6 years, I don't know how productive that's going to be long-term going forward. But the fact that the Mets aren't even talking to Pete Alonso kind of speaks volumes to me. Really, it really does. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, Jay. I'm so happy we didn't sign Correa. That was one of the biggest gifts. You think of it right now. The Mets almost signed Carlos Correa. That's a blessing. The Mets almost signed Trevor Bauer. That was a blessing. The Mets almost signed George Springer. That was really a blessing. the Mets made offers to all these guys, and that's why if you watch any of my past videos, I was always disgusted with Epler because, I was always just, I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's just throwing away money. I mean, Steve Cohen has to print money for Epler to waste. All this money we could have had on the books that thank God we didn't, but you're 100% right. We could have had Carlos Correa on the books. That would have been horrible. Bottom line, the fan base is dying to win. The Mets fans are dying to win. I cannot wait. I moved to Florida, but if the Mets win the World Series, I'm coming back to New York and definitely going to the parade. I've been dying to go to a parade of my team. I've never gone to a parade. I see the Yankee parades, the Giant parade. I actually went to the Giant parade because I wanted to see how it was. But my team, I want to parade so bad, and I want to win the World Series so bad. That's why I really can't take these excuses. There's a lot of people who cover the Mets who every single time in the last couple of years, every time the Mets make a move, it's the best move in the world. And you just talk ad nauseum about all the positives about each and every move, but it apparent that the Mets haven't made a bunch of great moves. Where the franchise is, where they are right now, David Stearns is digging the team out of a ditch. They're digging the team out of a ditch. We have $70 million going to Scherzer, Verlander, and McCann, and that has really, really hamstrung us this offseason. Imagine we had $70 million under the cap, $80 million. We could have done so many more things. Jay, I'm glad you mentioned that. We do, and I'm going to start going through all the comments. But Jay brings up a good comment. He says, "Do we have any pitching prospects that might be ready this season?" And actually, we actually do. We got a couple guys that made significant progress last year. I would say Christian Scott made the most significant progress. He's 24 years old. I think he's like 6'4". He's got really decent stuff. If you want to look at his numbers, he made great progress. Mike Vasil, he's also another guy who's, he's ready. He can make the jump to the majors. Dominic Hamill, he's another guy. Blade Tidwell, he's another guy. And then you got two or three other guys, young pitchers in our farm system who, if they're developed right, they got the tools, they got some talent. It's just we just got to see how they develop. But we do have a handful of pitchers that could develop within the next year or so. So, we do have a couple guys who could be coming. All right. So the highest rated prospect that the Mets have, like I mentioned, is Mike Vasil. He was in AAA last year. He's 23 years old. He's 6'5". He's 225 pounds. He's a righty. Last year, I'll give you his numbers. So last year he was 5-6 with a 4.65 earner and average. He pitched in 26 games. He pitched 124 innings. In 124 innings, he had 138 strikeouts, which is a little more than almost 9 strikeouts per game. His whip was 1.22. They're saying that Vasil's biggest thing is that he keeps his walk rate down. So he's a guy who has great control. He has stellar control. That's what I'm reading his scouting report. So that's what gives a lot of scouts confidence that he can be very successful on the major league level. He's been developing his pitches. Um, they said he has a newly reworked four-seam fastball. It averages between 93 and 95 miles per hour. He has good spin, 23 to 2,500 RPM. So Vasil's a pretty interesting guy. But, the Mets do have guys, I don't watch minor league baseball that much, but he's a guy that I've heard his name like bandied about as somebody that they could bring up early in 2024. Yeah, Robbie, I was looking at that. How's it going? You know what it is? Sometimes you have one or two bad starts and it balloons your ERA. So as long as the guy has talent, he's got good control. The scouts are saying that he has the pitchers that can make it in MLB and he could be successful. Why not give the guy a shot? Um, I mean, I forget Jacob DeGrom, but I don't think he was like highly, highly touted as a pitcher. I know he was a shortstop converted pitcher, but I kind of remember him coming out of nowhere. So if you think a guy has tools and the talent, and then also too with DeGrom, I remember his fastball was at 94, 95 miles per hour, and then it was just crazy. Every year he's got a 96 mile per hour fastball, and then a 98, then he's throwing 101. So if you got a guy with talent and good stuff, and you could develop the guy, who knows what can happen. Yuki, you're right. Should the Mets sign Hader and move Edwin Diaz to the eighth? I don't know. Hader seems to want a lot of money. I don't think the Mets are going to pay him over $20 million a year. I wouldn't move Edwin Diaz out of the ninth inning. He's coming off one of the most historic years as a closer. I wouldn't move Edwin Diaz out of the ninth inning for anybody, unless Edwin Diaz comes back and he's not anywhere near the closer he's been. But, folks, you got to remember, Edwin Diaz has coming off a historic season considering he didn't pitch last year. So the year he did pitch, he was lights out. Hey, John, excellent point. Yeah, Rafael Montero, I remember that name, was more talented than DeGrom. So that's a good thing. If you got the arms and if you feel that you got a guy with talent, who knows if you got the right guys developing. We got a pitching lab right now. If you could develop these pitchers, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And a lot of times it's mental. A lot of these pitchers have the talent, but they have no control. This guy that, Mike Vasil, I don't know much about him, but they're saying that one of the best aspects of Mike Vasil is he has stellar control. So that's a good start right there. And he could throw 95, 96 miles per hour with movement. He's got a high spin rate. You know what? It's a good start. 23 years old. We don't have many good young pitchers. It's good to know that we have a few guys who have talent in the minors. They may not be, projected as one or two at the moment, but you never know. Like John mentioned, DeGrom wasn't highly touted. So you just really never know. And I remember DeGrom in our staff with Harvey and Syndergaard. DeGrom was always the number 2 or the number 3. DeGrom never really got his due until like 2018, 2019. Yeah, Jay. Nobody's moving Diaz. That was just a hypothetical question. Like, if we sign Hader, would we move Hader to the ninth inning? But first of all, we're not signing Josh Hader because it's way too much money. Even if you wanted to move Hader to the 8th inning, I don't think it's worth it to give a guy $20-something million to pitch in the 8th inning, especially with our salary cap being in hell as it is right now. Liam Hendricks is a guy who came back last year from a battle with cancer. He didn't have the best season last year, but he's a guy who I could project having a comeback season. He's a guy who's been a dominant closer in the past. So if you want to sign a guy like that, believing that, you know what, he can come back to being that elite closer or that elite setup man, he's a guy that would probably cost a lot less money. Hey, what's up, Explosive? Yeah, you know what? Max said it, but just I have really like negative feelings about Max Scherzer. I really do. I don't. I'm not a fan of Max Scherzer. The guy, he's going out the door, and then he basically kicks the Mets fan base after the Mets. Mets fans basically kissed this guy's ass for 2 years. It just, it put a sour taste in my mouth. I really wish the Mets, could play Texas and beat them in the World Series, and specifically Max Scherzer. But I know we're a long ways away from that. I don't wish the guy any bad. I wish he comes back, and I wish, he could play baseball again. He has a bad back injury, but I just don't. I think it was highly unprofessional for the guy walking out the door to reveal a private conversation about this team's future plans. I mean, if the guy was younger, if he was 10, 15 years younger, I don't think he would have done that. He's an older veteran. At the end of the day, what does he have to do making comments like this? What does he have to lose? But it was just highly inappropriate, highly unprofessional. And I hope to God that we prove Max Scherzer wrong. That should be all the motivation Steve Cohen needs. All right, Max Scherzer, you think we're punting on this season? Here's what we're really doing. We just said this to get you out of the door because we don't want you anymore, because we think that you can't pitch anymore. That's what I hope we prove him wrong, but well, let's see what's happening. The offseason not over yet. We acquired David Stearns. He's supposed to be the best out there. He's supposed to be the best president. So all Met fans, be happy because we have the best of the best. So I might not understand all the moves. I may not like all the moves, but on day one, when the baseball season starts, as long as we're a good team, that's all I care about. That's all I want. At the end of the day, all I want to do is win. If we win with this group of guys, the group of guys we have right now, I don't care. I just want to win. I want to win. I feel we don't have enough. We don't have the right team to be competitive. But if David Stearns and their scouts and their front office feel that we do, who am I to say they're wrong? So Explosive, you're right. Andy Mortino said today on SNY, Mets view 2024 as a retool year to develop prospects. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Does that mean they're just gonna give up? Does that mean they're gonna contend and try as hard as they can, and the prospects and the young guys are gonna play? I don't know. Like, Andy Martino kind of says these things, in my opinion, to needle the Mets fan base, because most Mets fans don't want to hear that we're going to give up on the season. Really, who wants to hear that? Okay, yes, we understand that it's more of a long-term game. We understand that it's important to reset the luxury tax, the cap, the CBT, whatever it's called. Yes, it's important. We don't want to lose a place in the draft anymore. It's not good to give up 10 picks. It's not good to lose international draft money. It's not good to lose these tools that make us better for the future, right? So, okay, you reset the luxury tax for 2025, but still, You have to find a way to be competitive and to field a competitive team in 2024. The only reason why we're hamstrung is because we have a $300 million payroll because of all these bad moves. Because of all these bad moves, because Marte can't play anymore, because the pitchers Scherzer, Verlander, McCann are playing in other towns. It's just inept. Incompetence is why we're in this situation. So I do understand that we have a competent guy supposedly as the president of our organization, and that he does need time, but understanding that, I still believe that he has to find a way to be competitive in 2024 and to not give up on 2024, to not give up. What's up, BMW? I'm all for that. Cohen and Stearns should come forward to explain the 2024 plan. Why not? Why not? If Andy Martino is right and the goal is to just develop the young kids and to play the young kids, you can tell us that in some type of press conference. You can tell us that. If your vision is to develop the team, but we're going to be opportunistic, you can tell us that. The Mets fans can take it. But if I don't hear that, I'm not listening to Max Scherzer. I don't care what Max Scherzer says. I'm going to listen to what Cohen said. Our expectation is to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. So we're still in that 3 to 5 year window. So that's my expectation, that we're gonna go and try to win a World Series in 2024. I'm not gonna move off that. If they come out and they tell me a plan that makes sense and they're gonna be open and honest and transparent, then I'm gonna shift. I may shift, but other than that, I'm going for a World Series in 2024. That's it. I mean, explosive. With all due respect, Verlander and Lindor don't run the team. So it doesn't really matter if they back up what Max said. Max doesn't run the team. Verlander doesn't run the team. Lindor doesn't run the team. So they could say whatever they want. I only care what David Stearns and Steve Cohen says. Steve Cohen said we're going to be opportunistic. Steve Cohen says he's going to try to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. Steve Cohen is willing to spend money on talent. We were willing to sign Yamamoto. We were willing to go way above the 297 Steve Cohen tax. So, we're willing to spend money. So let's see what happens. Again, with all due respect, I got 3 people that have no power in the organization. The players don't run the organization. It's not like basketball. I know, and you've had players like LeBron James be like the acting de facto GM, but the players could say whatever they want. And last year was a disaster. So the players really shouldn't be opening up their mouths. The players should be performing as good as possible on the field. They shouldn't be talking about any organizational moves, like we're going to be acquiring this player, we're going to be punting on the season. They have no business doing that. They should really be performing on the field and doing everything in their power to win. If they're telling me we're punting on the season and we're not putting all our legs forward, then, they're not the player that I want on my team. I want players that only care about winning. And if these are the players they're talking about losing and they're talking about what Max Scherzer said, you know what? Maybe this is why we won a pathetic 70-something games last year. And you know what? With the Tommy Pham thing, honestly, we traded Tommy Pham away, but what Tommy Pham said, I can't see him making everything up. I can't see him making everything up. And if 1% of what Tommy Pham said about our Mets organization and about our players being lazy or whatever he said, if 1% of it is true, if one guy is lazy or two guys is lazy, that is extremely unacceptable. We had the highest payroll in baseball last year. We were almost paying the guys over $400 million with the luxury tax and all the penalties. And you got this guy, Tommy Pham, who would run through a wall. So I got a lot of faith and I got a lot of confidence in what he was saying because he's a guy I would take on my team any day. Like a team comprised of Tommy Pham is going to win. Like the Diamondbacks, they took off after they acquired Tommy Pham. If the Mets couldn't take the guy's intensity, if he was a little too intense for them, then again, it's no wonder why the Mets sunk and just shriveled last year. Yeah, that's well said, Robbie. The guys, if you want to win and you're a professional, you have to work harder than the next guy. There's no excuse for laziness. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't say, "Oh, I was the best when I was in high school. I was the best when I was in college." No, because right now you're getting older. You're gonna have to, our team has to not be lazy, and we always have to, work on our craft. And I don't know how the coaching is. I don't know what the drills are, but the team, it doesn't really sound like our team was all about winning. And we had a bunch of high paid millionaires on the team. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but, you know, I just know the mix didn't work. The mix really didn't work. I like Pete Alonso, and I love Pete Alonso. I want him on my team going forward, but the supporting cast around him just really didn't do the job. And that supporting cast is really the same this year. And then if you really think about it, you got a lot of young prospects coming up. And these young prospects, and I'll tell you this right now, Jet Williams and Drew Gilbert are guys who are going to work hard. Jet Williams and Drew Gilbert will run through a wall. They have just the same attitude as Tommy Pham. These guys, Jet Williams, he's 5'6". For him to have any talent or any chance in the major leagues, just because of his size alone, he has to work that much harder. Those guys, Drew Gilbert, I believe he's like 5'8", 5'9". So these guys are a bit shorter, but these guys are good hustle guys. These guys are very talented players. I can't wait to see those two guys come up. I really can't. You're going to see a very intense player when you see Drew Gilbert. And Jet Williams' expectation is to be in the majors. He said, my goal is to be in the majors in 2024. So I cannot wait to see that. Explosive, yes. Yep. Acuna, too. He's another short guy. Thought he was like 5'8", 5'9", but, if he's 5'6", literally, a lot of our top five, top six prospects are under 5'8". But pitching. We need pitching. We got to find pitching. Like I mentioned, a few arms, prospects. If we could find 2 or 3 arms, I'll just say it real quick. Number 9 prospect, Mike Vasil. Number 10 prospect, Blade Tidwell. Christian Scott is a 12th ranked prospect. Dominic Hamill is a 16th ranked prospect. Tyler Stewart, he's another pitcher from last year. He's 24 years old. He's 6'9". He pitched pretty good for the most of last year. Who else? But those are probably the closest guys on the pitching side. They're the closest to the majors. Then in a couple years, we got other guys like Brandon Sprout. But out of those 5 guys, if 2 or 3 of them can come up next year and be somewhat productive, that would be phenomenal. That would put us in the right direction. The frustrating. It is so frustrating. And I see everybody in the chat like mentioning Vogelbach. Vogelbach seemed to be at the center of a lot of controversy. He was at the center of the controversy between Buck and between Epler. There was a controversy there. Buck didn't want to bat him fifth, and Epler said, "No, you got to bat him fifth." So the fact that Epler was part of the decision to let Buck go at the end of the year, I just thought was a travesty. But he was at that big center. But Vogelbach, I don't know. Like I really don't know with him. We all know the guy was overweight, right? Right, the guy was overweight. That was obvious. The guy probably growing up had all the tools, all the talent in the world. I just feel bad for a guy because I guarantee if the guy lost 30 or 40 pounds, he would have been phenomenal in the fifth hole. Phenomenal in the fifth hole. But the fact is, how much does a guy want to be there? How much does a guy want to be there? There's so many people who, they work out every single day to make sure they're in the best shape. You're in the major leagues. So it just really, goes to show you that the guy just didn't really put in the work. In my opinion, didn't put in the work. It showed it on the field. It showed it at the plate. It showed it everywhere. So it's no surprise that the guy got worse and worse and worse. And to force Buck's hand to say you got to bat this guy fifth, what message does that send to the other players on the bench? Like, oh, this guy's going to be batting the number fifth hole. Meanwhile, Alvarez is pounding the ball and he's being phenomenal. Alvarez, folks, Alvarez is a guy who works hard. If you want to look at Alvarez's Twitter, he works hard. And then you got Vogelbach, who's guaranteed the fifth hole. So last year, that was just horrible. Oh, sorry about that. Like, well, hold on. Is it still cutting out right now? Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Like for some reason, this microphone every now and then it starts cutting up. If it continues to do that, just let me know. What's up, Stony? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hopefully, you're having a happy New Year, and you're having a great night. I wish this was a live stream that we can talk about the Mets' recent like great acquisitions. I wish we were talking about how we're putting together a phenomenal rotation. I wish we were talking about how we can talk about our lineup that we just added 2 or 3 bats. But to me, it almost feels like the offseason just began because I really have nothing to really hang my hat over. Luis Severino. Okay, you know what? I've grown to really like that move. I really have because Luis Severino. Everybody's saying the guy was tipping his pitches. So okay, yes, he's had success in his career. If they can tweak a couple things, I can see him really coming back. But you have him, Senga, Quintana in the rotation. But you really need 2 or 3 more legit guys to have a good starting rotation. So, we're far off from that. And I keep going back to the fact that we don't have anybody in the lineup to protect Pete. Next week, or in a couple of days, if we trade for Dylan Cease or we sign a Justin Turner and we get another guy in a bullpen, this whole messaging, this could be flipped around. And yep, good point, explosive. If McGill and Peterson step up, those guys really had a really bad last year, but those two definitely need to step up, especially David Peterson. I had a lot of faith in him, and he didn't do well. All right, folks. I'm gonna get going. I gotta be up in like 3 or 4 hours, so I'm gonna call it quits. But I couldn't live stream for about a week. I had family over from a little after Christmas to the New Year's. So now I'm going to try to live stream a lot more frequently at night. So stick around. we got to figure out exactly what's going on for this season, because there's got to be some plan in place. We're trying to put the pieces together as Mets fans, as intelligent fans, but I think there are a lot of moves right now that we don't see. There's going to be, I believe, David Stearns has to make trades, has to make moves that we're not anticipating. I cannot wait to see what those moves are, and I can't wait to break that down, because right now, the moves that he's made, I'm not going to break down these minor league guys. I don't know who they are. I don't know who these reject guys are. Harrison Bader is a little more well-known, but I'm not impressed with that signing anyway. All right. As always, have a great night. I will speak to everyone soon. I thank everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. If you could like on the way out, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, and I will see everybody very soon. Have a great night.